for everything to kind of connect up in the internet and everything. So thank you for joining this live. My name is Kayla Cox. I'm the owner of this here channel called 6 Miles to Supper, and that's my attempt to try to be clever to describe in as few words as possible how I lost 80 pounds with intermittent fasting. So basically, I walked 6 miles a day, just a slow 6 mile walk. And I ate one meal a day. I ate whatever I wanted at that meal. I'm not low carb. I'm not keto. I have not been keto at any point on this journey. I love my carbs very much. I love bread, pizza, dessert, wine, all of the good things. And I struggled with my weight from the time I was like about 6 years old until the time I was about 30 years old. And I finally just had enough of constantly struggling with it. I had a very low point where I got tagged in some Facebook photos. And I did not recognize myself. I was 222 pounds. And actually, my husband, who is in here in the chat, asked 6 Miles to Supper. So if you see somebody posting, that's obviously not me because my hands are right here, but he's in here moderating the chat. So thank you, Jay, for doing that. But he was just looking at a picture of me from 2014. That was when I had my I've had enough moment, and he said, I don't remember you that way. Like in his eyes, it was like he was not aware of how much weight I had gained either. So but yeah, looking back, it's like it's weird to look at because it's like that was, I never felt like that was me, but I did let my weight get to a point where I was obese, and so I've had enough moment. And then it took me about a year of just researching and trying to find something that would actually work. I didn't want to go on another diet. I wanted to just learn how to eat food and maintain a healthy weight, basically. And so I finally heard about intermittent fasting at the end of that year. And then in 2015, I was very bad at intermittent fasting. I kept quitting. I was in a huge hurry. But then eventually I got consistent. In 2016, I finally got consistent with a simple plan. And that is when I lost a good chunk of the weight. So basically in 2015, I lost about 15 pounds total. And then in 2016, I lost about another 50 pounds. And then I maintained for about a year. And then I lost like those last, 12 to 15 pounds. I got down to my highest confirmed weight was 222.2. And then I got down to like 142. And I just found that like I had found the diminishing return of weight loss for me. And so I decided I'm just going to try to maintain in the 140s. So that's where I've been since about 2018. That's been my goal. So if you've got questions about the weight loss journey, about anything, please put them in the chat. I see Christine's in here earlier. Thank you, Christine, for being an insider. Insiders get access to a vlog I do for the channel. Also, we do another weekly live, and so that's more like group coaching kind of thing. Smaller group. It's here on YouTube. And then also Discord. We have a Discord server where you can be around like-minded people. And yeah. Oh, and I also do office hours. So after the live on Wednesdays, I also just hang out on Discord, and you can talk to me face to face and run questions by me if you have questions, or if you just want to chat about life. It's been fun getting to know some people on there. So, okay, we have a question, and that is, should a nursing mother do intermittent fasting? Well, I don't like to boss people around, but I will say I have been a nursing mother before. And my philosophy, and I think it's a good philosophy, because why else would I use it, is baby comes first, So I would never do anything if it put your supply in danger, which I would say you can experiment with it. I lost weight in 2006, that would have been. That was when I had my first child. I remember vividly, I did a good job of losing weight. I did not maintain the weight loss, but with him, I was very, very cognizant of my milk supply. Like I was exclusively nursing. We didn't do bottles or anything like that. And I wanted him to be like #1 priority. But then I also wanted to lose the weight because I had gained like 60 pounds with that pregnancy, or more than 60 pounds. But I did find that I was able to lose weight and keep my supply up. and feel good and great and all that stuff. So, like, of course, talk to your doctor. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a nutritionist. I'm not a dietitian. But um, at the end of the day, what intermittent fasting is all about is just helping you to eat the appropriate amount of food so that you can lose weight. And so, if you can feel good and your baby can, most importantly, your baby can do well and can gain weight and your supply is not affected and all that stuff, I say go for it. But again, most people, the thing about fasting, and this is something that I found for myself when I was a nursing mother, I would feel so nauseous if I did not eat frequently. So that might be something that you experience. So I would just say, like, another thing to consider on that would be, like, most world religions that have some sort of fasting component, and most of them do, nursing mothers and pregnant mothers are like exempt always. So if you're nursing, I would say, like, it might not be the best fit, but it might work. I mean, I don't know. I did not try intermittent fasting when I was nursing. I back then, the way I lost it was just kind of, I cut out sweet tea and I tried to just I did a lot of Dance Dance Revolution, which was this, like, video game. So yeah, so that would be that's my answer on that. Franny 5047 says, "Do you feel weak doing intermittent fasting?" No, I don't. I feel really great when I'm intermittent fasting. But there are ways you can practice intermittent fasting where you will feel weak. So if you are not eating enough, like, and I mean you're way under eating. Like, obviously, see, this is where it gets tricky. When you're speaking on, like, a place like YouTube, things can get taken out of context and all that. So I want to be careful about how I put this. You have to under eat a little bit in order to lose weight. Like, anybody that has lost weight, what they are doing is under eating by a little bit. You have to be in a caloric deficit in order to lose weight. It's science. That's how it works. So, so the thing though is, you can take that to an unhealthy extreme, and yes, you will lose weight, but you will be miserable and you will feel weak and you will be tired, and you may eventually actually start gaining weight because you are so exhausted and so tired that you give up. And you're not consistent, or when you finally do eat, you just, like, gorge yourself on the food. So there's like a sweet spot. You want to feel really good and energetic. Like, you want to be able to tackle the day and to feel really good. If you're feeling great, it's a lot easier to stick to your plan. If you feel weak and bad and tired and nauseous and headachy and miserable, it's just really hard to stay on a plan. So, so if you do feel weak, then you should change up your plan a bit until you find that sweet spot where you're eating enough, but just enough so that your body can still lose weight, but you have great energy. It's like this, it's a fine line, but you can find it. It takes some trial and error. And some days you're going to eat a bit too much. You're going to realize, like, yeah, I ate a little too much that day. And then, some other days you're going to eat a little too little. And you're going to learn from that. Hopefully you'll learn from both of those things. And instead of getting super frustrated with yourself and being perfectionistic, you'll just, like, make tiny little tweaks, and eventually you'll find that spot where it's like, okay, the scale's moving down, I'm feeling good, it feels very sustainable, and like I can do this for the rest of my life. If you do that, then you will lose the weight and you'll keep it off. So yeah, so if you feel weak, I say you're doing it wrong. Increase your food intake until you get to that point where you're not feeling weak anymore. Also, some people just don't do great with fasting. Some people are kind of built for it, and other people just kind of have a hard time with it. And if you find that that's the truth for you, it's like, I don't feel good when I'm intermittent fasting, then find a different plan. Every plan out there to lose weight works. Like, there's nothing special about intermittent fasting. It's just a thing that can help people eat the right amount of calories so that they lose weight. So yes, like, keto works, as provided that you are in a caloric deficit, because you can definitely gain weight on keto. You can gain weight on strict carnivore. You can gain weight, with pretty much any plan, but you can also lose weight with any plan, provided it just helps you to eat the right amount of food. So there you go. Hey, Michelle, glad you're in here from Nebraska. Do you think when walking your 6 miles, there was a difference in weight loss results during doing those miles in small increments through the day or versus like a large full walk of the miles? Hmm. I don't think so. I don't think it made a hill of beans difference. I would even challenge people on the fact that it helped me lose weight. The reason I say that is this: ultimately, what will help you lose weight is being in a caloric deficit. The thing about exercise that's so great is that it helps you to stay in a good mindset place. You feel better when you're out there moving. When you're on the couch all day, just being still, it's just so easy to sit there and worry, or to just not feel that great, just kind of be meh, you know. But when you're out there walking, being active in some way, it doesn't have to be steps, by the way. It can be like just doing yard work. It can be, walking around. It can be swimming. It can be jogging. It can be, so many different things. It's just really just getting up and moving in some form or fashion. It doesn't have to be fast. It doesn't have to do anything else except for just get you up and moving. Um, and it's for the mindset thing. It's for the like getting yourself to do something other than eat, because it's very easy, or at least it was for me, to just spend your time eating, to fill up the void by eating. So I think if I could have practiced intermittent fasting very consistently and just not walked at all, I think I would have lost weight. But the thing about it is, you have like I didn't realize it at the time, but I was a stress eater. Like when I feel stressed, what do I want to do? I eat. Or if I'm bored, or if I'm procrastinating. I mean, there was a lot of things where like food was my go-to. And so, um, having a step goal gave me an alternative. Like, okay, you're feeling stressed right now. Go get some steps in. That's a thing you can do. And so in that way, the step goal was very important for my weight loss. Like it was a thing that helped me stay consistent with fasting, and that consistency with fasting over time definitely helped me to lose weight, and then also to keep it off. So if you need to break it up throughout the day, I say you're fine doing that. If you need to just do it all in one big chunk, great. But from a standpoint of does it make a difference? No. I think a splitting hairs kind of a thing. Let's see here. Ruth McKinnon 588 says I've gotten my body so used to OMAD that now I can't even finish the one meal I sit down to eat. I become full so quickly. Is this typical? Well, that's just not me. That has not been my experience of OMAD. I feel like I'm just the type of person I can just eat. I'm just an eater, like kind of like that's just how I am. I have the ability, the superpower, I guess, to eat a lot of food at one sitting. And so I've never experienced that. Like the only time that I can think of in recent memory, or since I've been doing this, like if there were a couple of different times, and those were not good times in my life, where I would sit down and I would just kind of like almost have to like I like at one plate of food I was just done, and it was like it was just a time, some darker times where some things had happened that were just sad. Like one thing that had happened was or stressful. One of those times was the period of time where I had done the 100,000 steps on here for this channel, like for the well in Jezza, and they had not hit water yet, and it was just a very stressful time for me because I had raised the money, and I felt very responsible, but I was not getting updates, and I didn't know what was going on, and I was very, very worried at that time. And there was another time where like we had donated to a couple of projects on DonorSee. Actually, I think this is an overlapping time. We had donated to a couple of different projects on DonorSee, which is a charity that I love, by the way. It's not even a charity. It's a platform, an app where you can donate directly to different charities to specific projects, and they send you video updates of how the project went. And so I love that. But these projects, sometimes there are these formula projects where you can donate money so that a baby who is malnourished can get formula. And unfortunately, there were it was like happened twice in a row during this time I'm thinking about. The babies died because they that does happen in the world. The babies just didn't, they didn't get the formula in time, or just other health kind of things can happen anyway. That really did a number on me. And so yeah, so that it was hard for me to eat. And so there have been a couple of times where that has been true for me. But when things are going really well in my life, that just doesn't happen. I have to be like super duper duper stressed, and in like just like a very very stressed kind of state in order for that to be true for me. So Nancy Elizabeth 8364 says, how many calories would you say is too low or too high? Well, if it really just depends on your own body makeup. And I know that's a frustrating answer. And it depends on your goal. So like if you're trying to maintain, and let's say let's say you put your weight and your age and your activity level into, there are like tons of calculators online. And I would recommend that if you go this route to figure out like how many calories you're burning, go ahead and use a few different calculators and kind of play with the activity level a bit, just to kind of get a range, because it's going to be a bit of guesswork when you're first starting out trying to figure out how many calories do you need. I don't count calories, by the way. That kind of stuff drives me crazy. But if you're just kind of trying to get like a general idea, how much should I be eating? If you are trying to lose weight, right, then you need to be in a deficit of some sort, and you need to do that consistently. And so like if you put your data into some calculators and it's saying, okay, you need to eat about 1,600 calories in order to just be like you're burning 1,600 calories a day, then okay, you need to eat 1,600 calories to maintain. If you need to eat, or if you're trying to lose, you need to eat less than that. And there's such a wide range based on your height, your age, how much muscle you have on your body, how active you are. It's hard for me to say like 1,500 calories, because I mean that's a thing that a lot of people will throw out there. If you Google it, a lot of times like that'll be kind of the standard recommendation, because that's based on like the average woman is about 1,500 calories. That's kind of a general recommendation you might hear as far as to lose weight. But it might be less than that for you, or it might be more than that for you. And then too high is any amount above that amount that you're burning, because if you go into a surplus, you're going to start gaining weight, and that's just how it works. Like, I wish it were different, but it's just not. I'm a farm girl, and that's just a lesson you learn early on. It's like, if you want your animals to put on weight, you feed them more food. And if they go off their feed, like because they're not feeling good and so they're just not eating enough, they lose weight. It's like clockwork. If farmers could figure out a way to make it so that animals could just get fat on a caloric deficit, like they'd be pulling that lever all day long, but you can't. So okay. BRG273 says, I've been doing intermittent fasting since July of 2023. I lost 16 pounds. Congratulations. Since January 2024, I have hit a plateau and it will not stop. I did increase exercise and toning, and I might be building some muscle. Do I need to stop for a while or what? Okay, so here's the thing. And this is like one of those frustrating things about life. And it's a recommendation I have seen from a lot of people. It just seems like a very common thing. Mark Gripito is one guy who makes this kind of recommendation, unless he's changed it in the past few years. But it's like, pick your goal. Pick one thing to focus on. Do that thing first, and then go on to the next thing. So if you're trying to lose weight, then focus on losing weight. If you are trying to build muscle, then pick build muscle. But you're going to be frustrated. if you're trying to like build strength but also lose weight, because usually those things are going in opposite directions. So if you are losing weight, you're also getting a bit weaker. And if you are getting stronger, you're probably putting on weight. So yeah. So now, you can, obviously people do it all the time. They are strength training and they're also losing weight. But just know that like strength gains are going to be very difficult. So I would say like what's probably happening, because you're exercising and you're toning, and so probably what's happening, because this just happens to a lot of people, is you're probably overcompensating with your eating. So meaning it's like, hey, I've been exercising, so now I get to eat more. I mean, at least that's what happens to me. Like my appetite increases. Your appetite will increase for sure when you exercise. And this is why so many people get frustrated, because they're like, I'm exercising and yet I'm not losing weight. Well, when your appetite increases, it's like the natural thing you want to do is just eat a bit more. And if you eat more, you've then kind of like canceled it out. So the answer, and it's not fun, is you got to eat less. If you want the scale to start moving down, you're going to have to start eating less. You have to be in a deficit. Now, yes, you could exercise more and burn more calories, but you're gonna be doing that same thing where you're going to be getting hungrier. So what you could do is keep doing what you're doing, but then just slightly decrease. And it doesn't have to be a lot, like, because right now you're at maintenance, like you're just plateauing, and that's actually like, I know people have a hard time with this concept, because I have a hard time with it too, or I had a hard time with it when I was trying to lose weight. But if you hit a plateau and you're just you're just staying the same, in a way you should congratulate yourself, because you have learned how to maintain at a weight and you're not gaining, and that's a really good place to be. Like, learning how to maintain is a valuable skill. So you've been plateauing, that's okay. But if you do need the scale to keep moving down, like if you've legitimately got weight to lose, that would be another thing to make sure of, is you actually do need to lose additional weight. I personally like to just look at the BMI as just a quick and kind of like, it gives you a rough idea, right, of what's a healthy weight. I found for myself, being on the low end of overweight felt about the same to me as being just in a normal BMI. I didn't notice any big differences, like health-wise, feelings, or anything like that, once I got down near a normal BMI. So just getting near a normal BMI is probably going to be enough. You can also check out the U-shaped graph, which I may have on my website, but I may not. But you can Google it, a U-shaped graph for all-cause mortality for BMI. So basically, if you look at it, so mortality gets, like, it hockey sticks when you're at the low, like a very like underweight kind of BMI, and at a very obese BMI. But then, like, so you get down to this point, and you can see that there's like no statistical difference in mortality when once you get down to a certain point, and it's overweight. So you can be overweight, and it's not really affecting what I would call, like, the metric that matters to me is just all cause mortality. Like, so you're dying for any reason. So it seems like you can get to a point with your weight where it's like, as far as just weight loss goes, you kind of hit that diminishing point of returns. It's the low end of overweight. And likewise, you start to see mortality increasing even in the low end of normal. So, I mean, again, it's not like dangerous, but it's an interesting thing to kind of be aware of. So yeah, I would say, learn how, or if you really do need to, lose some weight though, and you've been plateauing, just tweak it just barely. I mean, it just takes just a little bit to get the scale moving again. The mistake that I used to be guilty of, like in the past, like when I used to struggle with my weight, I would try to do drastic changes. Like, I gotta like get this weight off fast. But if you're maintaining, it just takes a small little, like, okay, little turn of the dial. So, that might be something as simple as, keep everything else the same. And like, if you've been having a snack during the day, cut out that one snack and just see. Or, like, you could keep everything the same and just say, I'm just going to try to eat a little bit less at the meal. and that could be enough to get the scale moving down. So yeah. Michelle Johnson says, Kayla, I just finished listening to your Overcoming Weight Loss Obstacle book on Audible, and I love that you narrated the book yourself. You got some great tips in the book. Well, thanks. Yeah, so this is the book she's talking about, Overcoming Weight Loss Obstacles. Thanks for buying it. So I wrote this book after I wrote this book. So this was my first book, The Layback Guide to Intermittent Fasting. That's the most popular book, which I think that is a good book. But this book was about all the harder parts of weight loss, the things I really struggled with, from getting started on into like when I was actually losing weight, and then in maintenance, the challenges I had faced so far. And I designed the cover myself. I just did that recently. If you've got like an older version, the content is still the same, but I did change the cover. It's supposed to be Sisyphus, kind of a take on Sisyphus, like when he's like rolling the boulder up the hill and it just keeps rolling back down. That's what weight loss felt like to me. For the first 30 years of my life, it was just like, oh, like you finally get to your goal weight and then it comes all back and then you gotta start all over, and so frustrating. But then I did learn how to overcome those obstacles and then not have to struggle with it anymore. Not to say that there's not plenty that I still do have to work on, because I'm not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. But yeah. So thanks for, and I've narrated all of my books, except for I haven't done I'm going to, I promise. I know I've been saying that for a while, but I do need to record this one. This is the Layback Guide to Weight Loss Maintenance. I just haven't done it yet, but I will eventually. Okay. Michelle, let's see. Vaughn D'Souza says, or Yvonne, maybe it's Yvonne D'Souza says, I need help losing weight. I have reached a plateau. Well, we just talked about that. So again, when you say plateau, okay, so first of all, I do have a resource that you can check out. It's free. It's called Weight Loss Plateau Flowchart. So it's just this flowchart that I put together to help you kind of like navigate through a plateau. Like, what should you actually do? And so that's at 6milestosupper.com/freebies, or hopefully Jay is listening to me right now and can put that link. It's a direct download link in the description. You don't have to give me your email address. You can just download it as a PDF file. Oh, hey, Emery, thank you so much for that that kind super chat. He or she, I'm sorry, Reed, I can't remember if you're male or female. You're so right. Fasting is the magic to weight loss. I went OMAD to CarnoMed, down 68 pounds since November, and no cravings. Works for me. That's awesome. Congratulations on that weight loss. That's 68 pounds. Like, you changed your life. You have. And that, like, when you lose like that weight, it's amazing how much of a difference it can really make in your life. Like, it can touch just every part of your life, right? And the level of fatigue you feel, or that you don't feel at the end of the day, because you're not dragging around 68 additional pounds. It's just, that's so good to hear. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, so Yvonne, back to Yvonne. So one thing I would highly recommend for anybody who thinks they're in a plateau is to make sure that you are tracking your weight daily and looking at your 7-day average over about 6 weeks of time to really determine if you're in a plateau in the first place. If you are just occasionally weighing yourself, you may not have a real clear picture of what's actually going on, because weight fluctuates. So, like, maybe you're the type of person whose weight doesn't fluctuate very much, but that's pretty rare, especially if you're a woman. If you're a woman, your weight is probably fluctuating, within a given week. There might be like a difference of 5 pounds just in your highest day and your lowest day. But if you consistently track your weight, so you keep track of it daily, and then you don't really pay attention to those daily numbers, though, like, you don't let them upset you, you don't let it really affect anything you're doing. What you do is that you then average those numbers. I like the 7-day average, so that just means you take the 7 previous days of weight, you add them all up, you divide by 7, that gives you your 7-day average. I have a spreadsheet that will calculate that automatically, again, 6milesofsuffer.com/freebies. But you can also use apps. There are different apps that kind of average your weight for you. Happy Scale on iOS. Libra Scale is one I think that will do. I don't know if that one's still supported or not. Fitbit used to, I don't know if it still does, will give you a weekly 7-day average. So like once a week, you'll see that number. But my spreadsheet, it gives you the new one every single day, because you always have a 7-day average, a new one with each day that passes. So, or you could just make your own spreadsheet if you know how to do spreadsheets, like, and you like to nerd out like I do, because I love those things. You can just, put in your formulas and stuff. So the point is, so track that, because sometimes what you're actually experiencing is just slow weight loss. And weight loss, by the way, for a lot of people, for me, is slow. When in 2016, I was being very consistent, and from say April of that year until November, when I decided to maintain, I was being consistent. OMAD, that was what I was doing, walking 6 miles a day, being consistent with that, taking a cheat day on Sunday, being consistent with that too. And I lost about a pound a week, which I thought was very slow. To me, I thought, that's too slow. I almost didn't even start this channel because of how slow it was. I thought people won't listen. They don't want to hear a pound a week. But the thing is, a pound a week usually means, when you're losing weight slowly, it's actually, I think, and the research, there's some good data, which I take all studies with a grain of salt, but the data seems to suggest that when people are losing weight more slowly, they tend to keep it off better. And I think that makes just common sense, because if you are losing weight slowly, it indicates that you are making gradual changes that you can really stick with. They're not so difficult. Yeah, some people do drop weight really fast, but then a lot of times they put it right back on, because the changes they made, they weren't permanent. They were just these temporary fixes, to try to get the weight off, as if the weight is some sort of temporary situation that just needs to be fixed. That's not it at all. Most of us who have a weight problem, or who have had a weight problem, there have just been all these really bad habits that we've gotten into that we need to get out of, and that we need to replace with better habits. So, yeah. So if you think you're in a plateau, average those weights, get a real clear sense of what's actually happening. Are you really at a plateau, or is it just slow? If it's slow, be okay with that. You can make minor tweaks, but I think it's best if you just never, ever, ever make a change that you can't see yourself sticking with for the rest of your life. So, and that's the tempting thing always, especially when you get down to the point where you're really close, maybe to a goal weight, and you think, well, yeah, but I could, go keto maybe, or something like that, just to get those last pounds off. Well, once you go back to not doing keto anymore, you're going to gain the weight back, because odds are you didn't get that habit under control, that thing that was making you 5, 10, 15 pounds heavier, right? Once you go back to doing that kind of life, you're going to go back to being 15 pounds heavier. So there you go. Green Tree says, I've been doing fasting for weight loss, and I know it works, but how to stick to it long term, knowing that it's how many calories that you eat that matters for weight loss? Okay, so the long term thing is like this. If you like fasting, right? If you like it, and it's my preferred way to eat, then why would you want to do anything differently? Now, maybe you want variety, and that's an option. The key is, let's say you say, okay, I know that it's just calorie restriction. I know that at the end of the day, the way intermittent fasting works, and this is also why it doesn't work for some people, because some people are, they're eating throughout the eating window, just eating, they're eating too many calories, then they're gaining weight on a 16/8. They're like, but I'm doing a 16/8 and I'm being really consistent. It's like, well, right, because that's not how intermittent fasting works. Intermittent fasting works by helping you to eat the right amount of calories. So, um, so I have full knowledge, right, that calorie restriction would do the same thing as far as if I could be consistent with it. That's the key. I can't be consistent with it. Like, I cannot, it drives me bonkers to try to like calculate calories, count calories, figure things out. I know about myself that if I don't have some sort of like easy guidelines, easy guardrails up, then I can justify eating all day and just a bite here, a bite there, and then pretty soon it's like the weight's coming back on. It's like, why is the weight coming back on? It's simple. It's like you're eating too many calories. You can know that, like intellectually you can know I'm eating too many calories, but it's just like you need a system. Everybody needs a system. And some people, the system that works best is, eating 6 small little meals that, like spaced evenly throughout the day, and they like eating these tiny little things. And then for other people, for me, it's like I love the simplicity of OMAD. It's like you almost can't screw it up. I mean, you can. I mean, I have definitely had times where I have gained weight, even just doing OMAD, because, again, going through stress and just eating too fast, eating a little too much. And it's small little things to get it back in line, and small little things that can get you out of line. So, so you can have that knowledge, and what you really have to combine that with is self-knowledge. So yes, calorie restriction period is what works. What will you stick with? So is it OMAD? Is it a 16/8? Is it not intermittent fasting at all? Like, you have to just like look at yourself, look at your own life, look at your plan, and see what is it that will work for you. What can you stick with for the long haul? And if you ever find yourself resenting your plan, then change it. Figure out some other thing that will work. Everything works. Just you got to figure out what works for you. What can you enjoy? What can you really enjoy and stick with? So, Pals M says, hi, my body is metabolically slow. I tried intermittent fasting with a vegetarian diet. It doesn't work for me. Can you suggest me something that will work to lose weight? Well, everything will work, even with a slow metabolism. I mean, because ultimately, at the end of the day, you're very efficient, let's say, when it comes to food. So maybe you just don't need as much food. And so I'm assuming, because you said intermittent fasting doesn't work with a vegetarian diet, maybe you mean like you're just not getting enough stick to your ribs kind of food. So you can't go long periods of time is what I mean by that. I'm not trying to say anything about vegetarianism. So if you find that, that's like fasting just doesn't quite work, because you like the types of foods you're eating, you just burn through them too quickly, which would be kind of ironic if you have a slower metabolism. But let's just say it doesn't work for you. It doesn't work on a level of just like you don't enjoy it. You don't enjoy intermittent fasting. Then I would say you have to learn how to eat less food. And you could try something as simple as being very present with the food, meaning like you never ever ever sit in front of a screen while you're eating. So if you're gonna eat, you're gonna sit down, you're gonna be very intentional with the eating, and you have to pay very very close attention to how full you're feeling, and you have to also be paying close attention to where the scale's moving. Is it if it's moving down, then whatever you're doing, that's working, provided you feel good and all that stuff. But it could be something simple like that. It doesn't have to be intermittent fasting. It could be like no snacks, just cut out snacks. That works for some people. And just paying attention to your satiety and what the scale is doing, you can lose weight. I think it's difficult. It's more difficult, I would say, for people who tend to stress eat. So if you find yourself reaching for food, grazing a lot during the day, I would say that's probably an indication. and intermittent fasting helped me to realize that about myself. If I had not had intermittent fasting, I know I would have just continued to be self unaware about stress eating. The way it taught me was, I'd be standing at my pantry. It'd be like right in the middle of my fasting window, and I'm standing at the pantry and I'm looking for a snack, and I would just catch myself like, wait, what are you doing? You're fasting right now. We're not eating until 2 o'clock. So, or 6 o'clock, or whatever the thing was that I was doing at the time. And I realized like, oh, I'm standing here because we just I just yelled at one of my kids, and I'm feeling bad about that, or we just had a budget meeting and like, man, that closing isn't going to happen what we thought was going to happen, and I'm upset. I am stressed out, and I'm trying to comfort myself with food. And so because I had intermittent fasting, because I was being consistent with it, I then had a reason not to eat. And I need that. Like, I need a clear boundary. Like, nope, it's my fasting window, or I'm doing OMAD, so I don't do that. Like, I'm not going to eat right now. I can do other things, but I'm not going to eat. And so that's why intermittent fasting works so well for me, and why other plans don't work as well. Because I can always justify it. I can be like, but I'm hungry right now, or but I'm really hungry right now, so I should eat. I shouldn't, starve myself or whatever. So yeah. So there's lots of different things you can do. I would say look at your own personality, and also look at your own kind of weaknesses too. Like, what do you think the reason is? Like, what if you look at your own eating patterns, what's going on there? Like, when do you tend to overeat? When do you tend to feel uncomfortably full? And then based on that self-knowledge, try to form your plan around those things, like how to do those things less. What are some rules you can implement for yourself? And then I think you'll have success. Victoria DXZ says, any tips on managing loose skin while losing weight from fasting? Well, I say embrace it. Like, I remember, like, on some level, it kept me from really starting and really being consistent, but kept having this thought in the back of my head: what if I lost all the weight and worse than it did when I was just obese? And that kept holding me back, or like I would start for a couple of days and then I'd stop. And I'd be like, I'm nervous about that. So what I told myself to get myself like over that hump was, okay, I don't know what it'll be like. I did Google, and this was helpful. I Googled, what does your body look like after you lose like 80 pounds? Or what does it look like after you lose 60 pounds? Or, postpartum body, like after weight loss, what does that look like? And I was just trying to get a sense of what is normal, because in our current culture, we don't have a good grasp on what's normal. Like, if you look at magazines, these people are airbrushed, and you don't see stretch marks, you don't see loose skin, because they have airbrushed that away. Or conversely, the person is super rich and has had lots of work done, plastic surgery. And what does that actually look like? What should I expect? And so I looked at those pictures, and men too. Like, some people, when they lose even a significant amount of weight, there's not a lot of loose skin to speak of. And then for other people, it's more noticeable. And so I told myself, like, okay, first of all, none of this is irreversible. If I get down to my weight and I just hate the way my body looks, well, shoot, I know how to gain weight. Like, that's the easiest thing in the world, is to just regain the weight. So I thought, okay, so I do have an out in that way. Or, if I get down to my goal weight and it's like I have like a severe kind of skin issue where it's like a medical thing, then I'll figure out how to, get any kind of surgery I need. Or I may just get down and I have to deal with some loose skin. Just have to deal with it. Just have to learn how to embrace it. And so I took the last option, which is, like, I would say, yes, I have some loose skin. I think any I would venture to say, and I've seen a lot of bodies, um, like any woman who has had children, uh, you're you're just gonna your body is like it gets it's a different shape basically, and there's not a whole lot you can do about that aside from surgery. And so I just, like, I frame it this way in my head. Uh, those stretch marks are reminders of my children, three beautiful kids that I love very dearly and I would not trade for the world. Also, it's a reminder, like loose skin too, a reminder of my 80-pound journey. It's like, man, I did let myself get to a point where I was obese, but I also did something about it. I got myself down to a healthy weight and I've been maintaining it, and it's a reminder. And so I try my best to just embrace it, and it doesn't really bother me. Um, I used to be kind of obsessed, like especially when I was obese, with like my stomach, and I would just be constantly looking at my stomach, and like and certainly even when I got down to my goal weight, like that was a thing for a while for me. I don't tend to do that anymore. Although if I ever do find myself doing that, I'm like, okay, stop it. Like you do. Sometimes you just have to tell yourself to stop. Um, yeah. So yeah, I mean, I do. I have, like it's not a flat stomach. Okay, I've got loose skin, and but I'm happy. I'm happy with it all. So I'm grateful. I'm grateful for my body. Um, ours, Bearberry. I probably butchered your name, and I'm very sorry. Um, says, hello, I'm hesitating between intermittent fasting protocol and a bodybuilding program. Well, I would say pick one, uh, and pick the one that best aligns with your goals. So, do you want to be a bodybuilder? Is that what you're going for? And if so, then that's probably going to be different than intermittent fasting. I imagine there are bodybuilders out there who do intermittent fasting, but I think what you're really saying is like there's just like you're kind of at this point, right? It's like two different paths and you're trying to pick one. And it's important to pick one. I would say that. Like pick that thing and do it as best you can. And it's going to be a guess, okay? Like we never know, right? Like like sometimes you just have to try going down one path, and then after you're on the path you're like, I really hate this path. Good news, it's not irreversible. Most of the time you can just decide to go on another path. So maybe you try intermittent fasting, you're like, this just isn't my cup of tea. Okay, then go down the bodybuilder path, or flip it. You start down that path, you realize it's not what you like, and you go to the different thing. The main thing is, are you picking something that you can stick with and that you're going to enjoy, that you're not going to resent, and that will get you to your goal, whatever your goal is? I mean, and that's a different thing. Like some people are looking to get down to like 0% body. I don't think 0% body fat, but very, very low body fat percentages. That's usually what bodybuilding entails. Um, and that's not my goal. My goal is not to be a bodybuilder. It's just to be, at a normal weight. That's pretty much my goal. Is just to be at a normal BMI. I mean, I do like my more specific kind of goal is I want to maintain in the 140s, but really I'm happy as long as I'm in the normal BMI. So, oh, some additional data has come in. She says, or he says, I just want to lose fat. Okay, well, then I would say this. If you just want to lose fat, and you're not really interested in being a bodybuilder, then don't be a bodybuilder and don't go down that path. And instead, look for a plan. So you're here, obviously, I think, all right, this is a guess, an educated guess, you're here because intermittent fasting appeals to you at least on some level. And so I would say that's a good indication that maybe there's something there, right? Like maybe there's like a good fit there. So people who tend to do well with intermittent fasting are the ones who usually can eat bigger meals, and just kind of need that. They're not great usually with, I would say, portion control, and they're not great. And they tend to be snackers, like tend to be the type of person who's just kind of going to graze all day unless they have those boundaries. So, so if you're just wanting to lose fat, I would say intermittent fasting is a great way. Remembering always that ultimately you will lose fat when you are in a caloric deficit, that there's no real magic with intermittent fasting. So like practicing intermittent fasting, like if you say you pick a window, 16-8, and you're like, that's what I'm going to do. Well, I would say, first of all, work your way slowly up to that so the intermittent fasting always feels very doable and you succeed at it every day, so that you're not like, oh, I tried to make it to 2 o'clock today and I totally failed, and then you like fall off plan altogether. Don't do that. Figure out a plan, just a baby step your way there. And then focus on doing sustainable changes. So, you know, I personally, I eat all the food. I don't try to cut anything out of my life. I wanted to learn how to lose fat by still eating all the foods that I enjoy. So I never cut out cake, I never cut out wine, never cut out chocolate, nothing like that. In fact, if I found myself kind of avoiding a food, kind of being afraid of a food, I would like make myself go and get some of that food, like Chinese food, ramen noodles, things like that that are gonna obviously put on water weight in like the short term, but actually won't make you gain weight in the long term. I just forced myself to like not be afraid of it, and it was very helpful, by the way, to do that, to like eat ramen noodles and know, like through experience, like, okay, you know, when I do this, the scale's going to go up probably by like 3 pounds overnight, maybe more, depending. It depends on like how thirsty I am and that kind of a thing. But over time, I'll still lose weight, because it's not about the water weight. It's about the trend over time. If you're in a caloric deficit day after day after day after day, just in general, like obviously you're not going to be perfect, but if your general tendency is to be in a caloric deficit, the scale will move down and you can eat all those foods. What happens to so many people though is they'll not have the Ben and Jerry's, but then they'll finally just be like, oh, I've got to have some Ben and Jerry's. They'll eat the Ben and Jerry's, then they, gain 2 or 3 pounds overnight, but that's not the weight that they actually gain. In fact, if they were in a caloric deficit, like if that's all they ate all day, they're going to lose weight over time. So yeah, you can do it. Angie Patton 9652 says, what advice do you have for doing intermittent fasting with a busy family? I find it so hard to manage meals for my husband and kids when I'm trying to fast myself. Any advice would be appreciated. Okay. Okay. First of all, I mean, this is just my own opinion. You asked my advice, so I'll just give you my advice. My advice is, if you find your life is too busy, then cut back on some of the activities. I see a lot of families who are just overscheduled. Like they're just like running all the time, and that can be stressful. Okay, but I mean, I prefer just a kind of more laid back kind of life. But so that's one thing. But when you are trying to balance, like, okay, I'm doing this fasting thing, the kids need meals and that kind of a thing, I would say, well, and I don't know if you'll be able to to kind of elaborate. Are you having trouble because you're like making meals and then you want to eat with them, or is just the food itself? It's like, oh, it's too tempting, or what? Because I find when I'm the busiest, that's when it's the easiest to fast. I find fasting is hardest when it's really like quiet and you don't really have anything going on, and it's like, snack sounds pretty good right now. So that's one thing. So, but if you're finding that it's like, if you ever feel like you're missing out on time with your family, I say that's a good indication that you need to tweak your plan and build your plan into something that really does fit in your life. So for some people, that's going to be a longer eating window, right? Maybe it's like a 12-12. Like, you hardly ever hear people talking about the 12-12 anymore. That used to be like a very standard kind of thing people would do. But as intermittent fasting has become more popular, I've noticed this trend, or it seems like there's this trend for it to become more and more and more extreme, right? Like, so it's like 16-8, now it's like 18-6, so it's like OMAD, and yes, I do OMAD, and I love OMAD. I don't think OMAD is extreme, but I'm just saying, like, it used to be like a 12-12 was like a thing people would do. So a 12-12, like, let's say a 12-12 works great for you, then I would say, okay, so a 12-12, that can work for most people. And what you can do is just, see how that could, like, so in other words, make it as easy as possible on yourself. So look at your life right now, and what is the thing that's tripping you up, really? That's the real question. Is like, is it that you've made your fasting window too short, and now it just can't really work with your family's meals, and you want to be able to eat? And by the way, I think it's very important that families eat together. That's one reason why I do OMAD, and I do not do alternate day fasting and things like that. Because for me, it was very important to at least have one meal a day where we all sat down as a family and had a meal together. And there is something sacred about that. I think it's very important, if you can, to do that at least once a day. Get together with your family and sit down. But maybe you have the type of life where you are maybe like two meals a day. That's what you want. Or maybe you want all three meals. Like, maybe you don't really want to have, like, one less meal. Maybe you want like three meals, and there are ways you could do that. Like, if, like, let's say what you end up on is a 12-12. That would be pretty easy. I mean, I would argue that probably a 16-8 could be done in a way where you could have three meals. But the point is that when you're doing that kind of a thing, you just have to be aware that you're going to have to, like, focus more in on not grazing, like, so keeping the snacking, like, really watch yourself on the snacking front, because that can be a way people can get a lot of calories in, and they don't even realize it. Also, being so busy, like, so if you're just constantly rushing from one thing to another, it's very easy to also rush while you're eating, because it's like, oh, I just gotta, like, you just gotta, like, shovel it in so that you get to the next thing. So I find it more helpful then to just fast. Like, I don't want to rush. I would rather fast than rush to the eating if I can. So that's another kind of aspect to it. So yeah. So there you go. But on the other hand, if what is tripping you up is that you're trying to, like, cook and you're hungry, and it's like, I am so hungry right now, and I'm fixing eggs, and like, it's too much. That will pass with consistent practice of fasting. Like, once you become an experienced faster, that kind of thing just doesn't bother you anymore, or at least for all the people that I've talked to that are experienced fasters. So in other words, they've learned how to fast, they can be consistent with it, they don't break their fast early. It just becomes, like, not a thing over time. But in the beginning, it is more difficult. If that's the case, you could, in the short term, do things like, make the meals not something you really like, or something more like along the lines of cereal or something like that, where it's not, like, super enticing. That's another kind of option. Or have the kid make the thing themselves, or have your husband, if he can, take over meal duties just in the short term. You could work out some sort of system. So those are just some ideas of how to make that kind of work a little bit easier. So those are all of my advice points. Hopefully that helps you. Miss Kayla 3319, nice name, says, I had no idea you were an author. Oh, you're so well spoken. Well, thanks. I think you would do great in the AuthorTube community. Would you ever consider making videos about your writing? Oh, well, yeah, I would, actually. So I've written these books, and also I have two young adult fiction fantasy novels that I've written. And so yeah, I've thought about it. I've thought about making videos about writing, or also about, like, how those two things can combine, like weight loss and creativity. And I may do that. I just haven't really gotten the courage up to do it yet. So thank you for that. I think that will help me. That's really what helped me to write the first book. Was somebody in the comments section said, "Hey, why don't you write a book about this?" And I thought, okay, I just needed that kind of a push. So thank you. All right. Well, we are out of time. And I appreciate all the questions, and for you guys being here. I hope it was helpful. The latest video out, I should have mentioned this, is 10 10 signs you're doing well on the weight loss journey, even if it doesn't feel like it, which I think is a helpful video. And because sometimes the scale doesn't really show you the progress, but you are making progress if you're doing any of those things in that video. So thank you guys for watching. And you can check out the books on Amazon. There are also various other places, like if you're not a big Amazon fan. And I will see you guys next week. Oh, and next week it's going to be at a different time, 2 o'clock instead of 3, because I have something, some plans with my family. So 2 o'clock next week, but then we'll be back to 3 o'clock the Fridays following that. Okay, I'll see you guys later.